We all set?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, I want to say a few things before I take your questions. It's been a tough week in a lot of different ways here. You guys were with us the whole way. The COVID situation, other situations off the field, and of course the trade deadline was looming on us. Although all the trials and tribulations came, it was an exciting time, exciting baseball time to be to be in the business. The trade deadline always brings out an excitement in the sport. This process can be exciting, but it's also really, really difficult. These aren't just assets that you acquire. These are human beings that I have great affinity for, and I know all these guys personally. So yeah, it's been a tough couple of days, and yesterday was probably as tough a day as I've had as a general manager. It's when the good thing about this group is we've got everything out of this group that we could have got out, and we reached the highest levels. For 10 straight years, we competed with the best and brightest in all of baseball. We were as good as anybody in the game. We won 4 division titles. We've been in the playoffs 5 times. We won a World Series with this group. And there's no shame in having to take a step back, refocus, reboot, and start the process again. And that's what we're preparing to do. We felt that looking at our talent base in the big leagues, after all the COVID situations, all the injury situations, and the performance in the field, that it was time to take a step back, reboot this thing, and build us another championship caliber or baseball team. The players that we acquired today at the trade deadline and the last couple of drafts that we had and trade deadline acquisitions we had will be the core of this next championship caliber club, and that's our goal. So our goal is to build one of the great organizations in baseball. We've been that for the last 10 or 12 years. We plan to continue to be that, and our process is tried and true. And we expect nothing but excellence. And our goal is always to do this, to win the World Series, win a ring. I wore it today to remind myself that's the goal. Questions?
All right, go ahead and raise your hands to the Zoom call, and I will call you. Chelsea James, Washington Post.
What about?
I can hear.
A little louder, Chelsea.
Hold on a second.
Hear me? No. Oh,
No, I
sorry.
can hear you. Yeah.
Oh, I was trying to ask, what made you guys want to create
Still struggling, Chelsea.
Can't hear you.
Still struggling to hear you. Sorry.
Next.
Other questions? Jesse Doherty, Washington Post.
Chelsea, you can text me your question. I'll say it. Pass Mike for it if you want.
There you go.
Mike, I know all your stuff you're talking about and taking a step back and starting the process again. You are so used to as a GM as this time of year is pushing forward, buying. How tough was that for you to make that decision and go in that direction?
Oh, it's a difficult decision to make, but oftentimes that decision is made for you. And this year it was, and we recognized where we were and what work we had in front of us, and we decided to begin a building process that will allow us to compete at the highest level for a continuous part of over the years. So that's always our goal. We were never here to win and run. We want to be continuously great, and like we've showed over the last 10 years or so, we've won as many games as anybody in all of Major League Baseball, as many championships, as many titles, and worlds, and culminated in a World Series championship. That's always our goal. We're winners over here, and losing, it doesn't come easy to me or to those people in the clubhouse. And it's always our goal is to put a classy organization and team on the field that has Washington across their chest.
When would you say you guys made the decision to go in this direction fully? I know when you talked to us on July 20th, you said you were still kind of taking that dual path. So when did it turn?
Yeah, well, you're always evaluating the team. You're always evaluating where you're at, and injuries happen in this game, and in different aspects, kind of have hurdles along the way. I don't know if there's a game or a moment or a instance that says to you, okay, time to sell. I think it's you evaluate this thing every day. I'm there with the team every day, and you have to take stock and take a step back and look realistically. What can I do to win this division, to get into playoffs, and give me a chance to win the World Series? And when I took a step back and made that look, I didn't see a path to win, to be a World Series caliber team this year. So I felt it was time for us to take a step sideways and to allow us to take a step forward and get back to where we're supposed to be, which is a championship caliber organization.
Mike, in terms of the deal with Max and Trea to LA, that's kind of the blockbuster here. When did it become apparent to you that you could package those two guys, and that was something that you might want to do instead of just dealing Max, like maybe it was more of a possibility on the outside?
Well, those are things that involved our strategy, our global view of the trade market and that type of thing. It's a lot of trial and error. It's a million phone calls for each idea you have, and in each trade proposal you make. Sometimes things fall into place. You get ideas from other general manager. It's all about communication and preparation. And when you feel that you have an opportunity and you seize it. We had multiple standalone Scherzer deals that were out there. We had several combined Scherzer Turner deals. We had Scherzer Turner plus deals. So there's a million different renditions of the deal we made. This one just seemed to be the most appealing to me, gave us the most impactful starter prospects, and allowed us to reap the biggest benefits of the trade market. Max's no trade clause also limits the field that you can discuss things to. You're not wasting your time on teams that he's not going to go to. He's earned the 10-5 rights, which earns him the right to control his destiny and more or less tell us what team he wants to play on. I respect that. I couldn't respect the player more. And he and I were in constant communication. And at the end of the day, we sent him to a team that he wanted to go to, that he accepted to go to, and got the prospect package that we needed to get for two star players like Trea and Max.
Thank you.
Marie Torres, The Athletic.
Hey, Mike. Realistically, how quickly do you think that this reboot could go?
Well, that's a good question, but like I said, the remnants of this trade deadline, the last trade deadline, the last couple of impactful drafts that we have will be the core of this next World Championship caliber club. We started this thing in 2009, way below where we're at today as far as organizationally, and it took us 3 years to win 98 games. So we have a great plan in place. We've got great people out in the field scouting and developing our players. We've got a great major league staff and a good stable of players that are going to impact the big leagues in the near future. So you never put a timetable on it, but I'm a restless person, and I don't like to lose, and we're not going to put up with losing for too long.
So kind of along those same lines, then, do you see yourself potentially being pretty aggressive in the off season to add, impact pieces that way?
Well, we'll see where we're at as far as where our prospects in the minor league are. It's always a balance of everyone coming to the big leagues and impacting the big leagues at the right time. So you don't want to, you saw what we did last year, the last time we rebuilt this thing into a championship organization, right before the impact at the big leagues, when our young players came to fruition and we became a really good team. We went out and made some impactful free agent signings, and I think that's the best way to kind of combine the two, is grow your own, develop your own guys, and when they become ready for impacting the big leagues, then you go out and get your guys to finish it off.
And then, with Turner, besides the fact that you were able to obviously maximize, the length of remaining on his contract for a better return, how else could you kind of like help us understand like why you decided to move on from Trey?
We didn't move on from Trey. It was one of the greatest trades I ever made in my career. He was a beloved player in the clubhouse. I loved him myself. We maximized Trey's value because of where we're at as a franchise. And Trea Turner with 2 playoff runs in him and 1.5 years is way more valuable than a Trea Turner that's got 1 year before free agency. So that was like the biggest reason that I went into the decision-making process. The Dodgers specifically were very intrigued by a Trea, having him for more than a rental player. I think that you saw the prospect package we benefited from the prospect package because of the length of the contract that he had left.
Thank you.
Mark Zuckerman, MasterSports.com.
Hey, Mike, particularly those 2 top prospects from the Dodgers, Ruiz and Gray. What do you feel like their timeline is? You think we will see them here this year, and what kind of players can they be for you?
Well, I think they're big league ready players. They've proven themselves at the minor league level. We think they're impactful type of players. I think not only did we get a very talented, impactful player, we got that in a position that we really needed it. It's one of the key positions, in all of baseball. And, when we acquired Wilson Ramos in a trade, you could see what that particular position, having the impact that position can do for a baseball team. And I think that he was a focal point of what we were trying to do at the trade deadline. And we identified him, and he was the main cog that we were trying to get. And Jojo Gray is a terrific young prospect. He's got great stuff and a terrific pitcher. And he's a guy that, we should see, very soon, if not right away in the big leagues. He's big league ready. He's pitched he was a starting pitcher on a championship caliber club with the Dodgers, and I think he'll come over here and just continue to be, improve and make himself into one of the elite starting pitchers in the game.
And just going back to what you were talking about the last week and how you come to that decision finally to make the move, how much at all did Steven's surgery play a role in it? A week ago, you guys were thinking he may be a few weeks away from returning to pitch for you guys. How much did that factor into it, and not just for this year, but what you may expect from him next year?
Well, I think it factored in. It wasn't a big factor in our decision-making process because if we were going to get Steven back this year, we were going to get him back late in the season. So, we thought it was going to be like a mid-August kind of, late season, acquisition for us to get Steven back. So I think that when Kyle went down, when Schwarber went down, and we had a rash of injuries after that with Joe Ross and we lost Castro and that type of thing. There was a lot of things that were kind of going against us to at least add at the trade deadline. So there was a time there when we were playing extremely well. We were optimistic about being a buyer in it, and then when the bottom fell out kind of in July, we had to reassess, and that's the reason we went dual paths earlier in the trade deadline season.
And just real quick, what is your expectation for Steven next year? I know he goes through his rehab and there's a feeling that he's back pitching, but knowing the history of that surgery and what kind of pitchers they sometimes are when they come back, what is your realistic expectation for him?
Well, my expectation is that, following the doctor's guidelines, I think that, he should be ready to pitch by spring training. I don't personally have a lot of experience with the thoracic outlet surgery rehabilitation, and not many of us do. But I think that under the medical staff that we have and the rehab staff that we have. We're going to get him the best that he can be, and hopefully that is ready to participate in all baseball activities at the beginning of spring training.
Jessica Camerado, Nomi.com.
Hey, Mike, you guys traded so many veterans with proven experience for young players with potential. So what are some of the challenges, or what's the key to evaluating potential compared to proven track record?
Well, it's when you're in this mode, when you're in this position that you're going to reboot and try and stock the minor league system. The most intriguing players to trade often are the players that their contracts are running out. So, all but Trea Turner contracts were going to expire this year. We can make decisions on any and all of those players if we want as free agents after the season. So our thought process is this: you trade players on expiring contracts, you gather a prospect base with them, and then after the season, when they become free agents, you can pick and choose who you want to target to go after if you want any of those guys back on your team. So we didn't invent this process. It's obviously the players with the expiring contracts are the most tradable players that you have, and we really like the prospect base that we amassed by trading those people. They were very popular on the trade market, and we're excited about what that brought us and how quickly it can help us rebuild into a championship caliber club again.
How important was it for you to maintain the top prospects that you currently have in your system?
Well, that was part of our strategy. When you're a seller, you certainly aren't thinking about trading off any of your good players. When we were in it, and when we were buyers at the deadline, which we've been almost every year that I've been the general manager, you have to let go of your good prospects, and we were never afraid to trade a prospect to help the big league club win. We were constantly in win now mode with an eye on that season, but a global view of trying to be consistently good over a amount of years, and I think we achieved it beautifully. You're talking about a 10-year run of as good a baseball as anybody in the league, with championship banners and hardware all over the place. So I'm proud of what we've done here. I'm proud of what we're going to do here. It's going to be exciting to be a Nationals fan and come to the ballpark. And I know our fan base understands how this thing works because they've been through it before. But they haven't been through it for a decade. So we had a decade of excellence, and we're going to take a small step backward to take leaps forward. And I think that we have things in place that are going to expedite that process, and we're going to be a tough team to play in the very near future.
And last one from me: right before the deadline, you end up trading Gomes, Harrison, and Lester, and it's like a flurry of time. When the deadline hits, do you take a step back and just breathe a sigh of relief, or what do you do when it hits the deadline?
Well, the trades are announced at the deadline. There are hours and hours and hours of work that's done before them, and they often get announced at the same time. We had the Oakland deal with Gomes and Harrison done well before the Lester deal was done, and those are a product of about 5 days of grinding it out and talking. And once you do make a deal, it's hours before it's confirmed, and then hours after that before it's announced, because you got to wait for physicals, medicals to be exchanged, and to okay them medically. Then you have to contact the players, and then when it's official, we announce it. So I wouldn't look too far into the timing of the announcements. It's more about when we get them traded.
Chelsea Janes, Washington Post.
Okay, we're gonna try this again. Is this better?
Got it. Can hear you.
Perfect. So like you said, like if you were going to trade Trey, this was the time where you could probably get the most out of him. To what extent did you guys consider hanging on to him long term? How far did you get with, extension talks, and how serious did those get, if at all?
Well, we had extension talks in spring training of 20, and we extended ideas back and forth. We didn't get it done that year. When the season started, we both wanted to table discussions till the off season, and then the COVID hit, and so we put them on the back burner. And then there was then Trey and his people wanted to wait for other shortstops in the market to sign, and so when that happened, we decided to table the negotiations till after this season.
All right, a couple more. Andy Costco, Washington Times.
Hey, Mike, you kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, but what lessons can you take from like 2009, 2010 for this rebuild this time around?
Stay true to the plan. It's a tried and true plan. It's scouting, player development, analytics combined, and you have to follow the plan, and you can't. You have to be patient. And patience doesn't mean losing. Believe me, patience means we know what we're doing. We've got a plan in place to not only win in the near future, but sustain excellence throughout a decade. And that's what I learned in 09, and that's what we're going to employ, here in 21.
Jesse Doherty, Washington Post.
And Mike, with Juan Soto, obviously he's a long way from free agency, but when you look at the plan moving forward, how important is it to try and extend him beyond his team controllable years? And do you have any immediate plans to start discussions for that?
Well, I like to say we have a long-term deal with him now. It's a 3-year long-term deal, so that's a good thing to have excellent player on your team for 3 years. Hey, obviously, Soto is a benchmark type of player. He's the core of our team, and we would be remiss if we didn't aggressively try and sign him long-term. I think that it's an important part of what our plan is. And like I said, when this trading class and the last couple of draft classes and trading seasons come together, these people will be the core of that world championship caliber club, with Juan Soto as our linchpin. And he's as important a part of this franchise as anybody.
And Mike, with Steven, with back-to-back season-ending surgeries now, what's your concern level of how he'll look for the rest of the contract you signed him to? And does it maybe speak to just the risk of 7 years for a pitcher when you kind of look at it as a whole right now?
Yeah, well, you've never heard me say 7 years for a pitcher is a good idea. They throw a baseball very, very fast many times, and it's an unnatural action. So, but we pick and choose who we want to give these long-term deals to. And I've said this many times. It's the person that we're signing, not the player. And we got ourselves a great player with Strauss and an even better person. So we're going to get the maximum out of Steven Strasburg that we can. He's going to be chomping at the bit to get back on the mound. And we expect him to work extremely hard to get back, and he will. And you guys know when he's on the mound, he's as good as anybody in baseball. So that's our expectation: get him back on the mound healthy, and we expect him to be a great pitcher for us.
Thank you.
And final question, Matt Weirich, NBC Sports Washington.
Mike, I'm wondering, what were conversations like with ownership leading up into the deadline? I know you've talked a lot about how the Learners have always really wanted to contend for championships. What was it like having to kind of talk with them about the possibility of selling and how things kind of evolved?
I mean, we're in this together. Every move we make, every deal I do, they're in on the plan. We we mapped out a strategy and a game plan to attack this trade deadline. We mapped out a global plan, our 1, 3, 5 year plan, like we always do. And we decided it'd be, because of the way we were playing, and that it was time to sell some of our players that were leaving after this year and try and restock the farm system and get ourselves some young impact players for not only for next year, but in the future years. So, you're looking at, some of the trades we did were for longer term assets and longer term players that'll be here several years down the road. But there's quite a few players from the trade deadline that are going to impact this team, not only this year, but next year and the year after. So we felt that we've got ourselves some good young players that are future impactful players, but there's the future for some of these guys to impact the team are now, and that was kind of the blend and the balance that we created in the trade deadline.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.